The middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
चुन चुन करके हिसाब लेना ये मेरी फितरत है.
Why should it be a problem? If I'm smart enough to have multiple options, you should be admiring me.
भारत झुकने वाला भी नहीं.
The rise of India will be determined by India. It will be determined by our strength, not by the mistakes of others.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and in this video we are going to talk about the national security trap behind India's AI dream. What does that even mean actually? Right? See, if you look into it for quite some time now, let me actually share my slide. It would be a lot easier, and I'm just gonna directly jump into this whole thing, okay, without wasting much time. All right. So if you look into, look at this, the advanced computing and semiconductors export controls commerce. This is from Department of Commerce. Then again, CSET, look at this. Your years exports controls on advanced computing, supercomputing, semiconductor manufacturing equipment, analyzes more than 100 relevant chips. These are all export controls. Now there's another one, the H2O problem. What is that? NVIDIA H2O chips worth more than $16 billion to Chinese tech giants including ByteDance, Alibaba and Tencent. These chips optimized for AI interference and are likely to be used in Chinese supercomputers, violating US export controls. As you can see what I'm talking about here, right? That for decades, if you look into these things, then national security was actually measured by tanks, missiles, oil reserves, petrodollar, then proxies, the military alliance, all these things. But nowadays, the new strategic resource is emerging that is called artificial intelligence. And as I showed you that US has been restricting these advanced chips, and China is restricting critical minerals. And China's DeepSeek has shown that if a country like China can develop its own sovereign AI, then how their system can be impacted by the export controls and all that, right? So what we are witnessing here is not just some AI race. It's the race to control the infrastructure, to control a system. You know, the era of that regime change, the direct regime change, is going away. Why? Because countries are becoming more and more aware of the mechanisms, the system, the social engineering and all that. So this is another thing, the AI future, where the countries that control most of the stack are going to try to at least control your system. Okay, so now what we are going to do in this video is that how much of India's AI stack does India actually control? That's the question we are going to answer. Okay, now if you look into it, then historically, and in fact just recently, when Prime Minister Modi India organized this AI Impact Summit and all that, so there was this word called AI, sovereign AI stack. But my take is this, that sovereignty of AI stack doesn't come by, making a chat bot or something. And let me actually share my slide again. Okay. So this does not come by the chatbots or some random, say, some other things, right? Or you made some sort of, say, autonomous vehicle Tesla style or something. No, this comes from having certain things under control. One of those things is energy, then compute, then semiconductors, then rare earths, then data, model, deployment, all these things that form an AI stack, right? Now, if India does not control the foundations, then India may end up what? India may end up building its AI future on infrastructure controlled by somebody else, right? So in today's video, what we are going to do is that we're going to do a full AI sovereignty audit of India. And what we are going to do is, along with the audit, we are going to compare that where India's AI, sovereign AI so-called, actually compare. How does it compare against United States and China, to see where India stands. Okay, so that's what we are going to do in this video. But before we begin, please do like and subscribe if you enjoy deep dives into the systemic changes, system behind the powers, the emerging world order, all that kind of thing, trade corridors, then AI or energy, these type of videos you enjoy, then please do like and subscribe. And let's get started on this video and let's get going. Okay, so let me share my slides real quick. Okay, see, the sovereign AI stack has, all in all, lump sum, has 6 layers. Okay, energy, compute, chips, data, models, and deployment. Energy, as we know, what is that? Grid power for AI GPU clusters, right? Compute, GPU clusters and national AI compute pool, as in that where all the calculations are done. Then chips is design, fabrication, HBM memory and all that. Then you have data. Data is the data that you train your stack on. Then models. Models basically are trained, how all the programs that you train. Okay, you need something to train, right? So that's what that is. The deployment is basically the cumulative of all these things as to form a proper system. That's the deployment. So like India stack, UPI, ONDC, government AI, all these things, they form all that. Okay, so that's what we are going to analyze. So first of all, let's look into the energy layer here. Okay, now if you go into this energy layer, you find that India's sovereign AI compute power, total India's sovereign AI compute power is 100 megawatts. Okay, out of 1.28 gigawatt total data center capacity, that is less than 10%. Less than 10% is AI grade. All right, India's compute requirement is going to grow to be 7 gigawatt by 2030. That is 30 times more what India needs. Okay, now also if you look into it, then current capacity, whatever is the current capacity, you see OpenAI and Zenobe report. Okay, they will tell you that lots of things are going to change, which means that the current capacity, the power requirement, energy requirement is going to grow 30 times. So for those who actually wonder where the jobs will be, then there you have the answer. Energy, energy, energy. I mean, if you still cannot figure out what to actually do in your life, then I don't know what else to tell you. Energy. What kind of energy we're talking about? If you can get into nuclear energy, become a nuclear engineer, or learn how to operate a nuclear power plant, this is not a small skill, guys. Okay, these are very specialized skills, and if you can do that, believe me, you will have a lifelong job. Simple thing. You're gonna be working in a nuclear power plant, you're gonna be working in nuclear submarines and all that. But normally what happens is that it starts the other way around. First of all, you get hired into a nuclear submarine, you learn to operate the small nuclear reactors. Okay, and then after that you move into something big. All right, so energy. Then Now let's compare this. You find that Meta's Hyperion campus, that is one campus, that campus alone requirement is 5 gigawatts. Okay, 50 times India's entire AI compute today. That's 50 times more than that. Okay, now let's look into the power country wise. Okay, country United States data center capacity 31 gigawatts. AI share 40% of that goes to AI. China data center capacity 32 gigawatts. AI share 39%. India data center capacity 1.28 gigawatts. That is less than the 10%. Okay, meaning that India has total of 520 gigawatt of power installed. All right, and uh, out of that 520 gigawatt power, and very small amount actually is going into the data centers, and there is a reason for it. Okay, reason is that India doesn't have that hyper scaling kind of data centers, hyperscalers. India doesn't have that. So this energy requirement actually it becomes a bottleneck. All right, and one second, let me share my slide. So this is a bottleneck. It is a structural. India's grid total is irrelevant, right? Because if AI grade power infrastructure does not exist, then you can have grid all you want. Then what's the point? It's like, you have a very deep well, but if you don't have actually people to drink that water, or you don't have a mechanism to pull that water out of that well, then what's good the well is, right? The same thing is here. India has the energy capacity, India has that, but what India doesn't have is hyperscale data centers. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. There you go. Hold on a second. So what is that? Power bottleneck structural. Okay, now, if you look into the regular grid power, distributed consumption, burnout tolerable, standard voltage feed built for homes, then if you look into AI grade power required, what is that? You have to have multiple data centers, or you have to have the energy grids that are dedicated for those data centers. Okay, it's not just that you set up something somewhere and hope for the best. Now, problem is India's grid infrastructure is not dedicated to, it's not built to dedicated to the AI grade power, meaning that a one power plant, let's just as a hypothetically, okay, one power plant providing the energy to one of the data centers dedicated. When you start to do that, then you can say that, yeah, we're good. This is why the whole concept of small modular reactor exists today. There was a time small modular reactors were primarily used for aircraft carriers or submarines and all that. But now small modular reactors are being used into this dedicated energy providing as an energy provider. And this is why I had said in my previous videos that energy as a service will be the next thing. Meaning that you set up these data centers, or you have land, then you go put solar farms and all that, or whatever you want to do with it. But if you can do that, then right there is a business model for you. Okay, so that's right here is the problem. No GPU hyperscaler dependency. Now, India doesn't have all these things. India doesn't have any domestic GPU hyperscaler. What is GPU hyperscaler? GPU hyperscaler is like you have Azure, you have AWS, you have GCP, Google Cloud Platform. All these are platforms have their dedicated data centers. Then they have GPU platforms too. Those are called hyperscalers basically. Okay, and so these things are just not there in India. India doesn't have its own domestic hyperscaler right now. Okay, data leaves India, strategic dependency is locked in, GPU owner controls Indian AI. So right now, whatever India will do with the AI, it will have to depend on GPU too. And we're going to talk about that later on. What it will fall under, what it will fall under compute. Okay, so this is what India is right now. Those choke point stack, GPUs, Nvidia, US export policy, AI grade power structurally absent, then hyperscaler non-homegrown, data sovereignty compromised by the above things. That's what's happening. India doesn't have the hyperscaler, India doesn't have the AI grade power, meaning the dedicated that I talked about. But all these things are going to happen over the period of time. How long it's going to take? I can simply tell you this, that to build a small modular reactor normal, it takes at least 2 to 3 years if the land gets approved. If land is not approved, because there are lots and lots of Andolan GV, right, the activists who are sitting there waiting to get their paycheck, so they're going to start their activism right away while sitting in their air conditioning that comes from that power. Okay, so all these activists, their job is what? Just to delay it, and they are paid from outside. Like I said, leverage, right? So once all that is sorted out, to build a small modular reactor, it takes 2 to 3 years. But for India, I think if there will be more drama and all, it may take 4 to 5 years too. So that right there, is that in itself is a very big gap. All right, so that's number one thing. To energy, there is a bottleneck, but bottleneck is of different kind. Okay, now let's move to the compute section of it. So in the compute section, okay, the compute, I'm not going to take too long into sections from here on, okay, so that otherwise video is going to be very long. Okay, lots of things, some of those things I will leave up to you to really figure out. Okay, so here's the thing. Now let me share my slide for compute. What exactly compute will happen? What is compute? Does India have the GPU depth to train at scale? Compute meaning that the processing, the parallel processing, the computations that are done behind the scenes, right? Every computer that is out there, any microchip that's out there, it's only made for computation. What we see in front of our eyes is the human readable data. Behind the scenes, machine does its own calculation. It's all 0 and 1. Okay, and that those zeros and ones, lots of people don't even understand they happen. Anyways, so that's what compute layer is. Compute layer is the one that actually does the calculation, meaning that at the data center where the PCs are installed, the PCs basically, those computers are the compute part. Now let's look into the data here. When you look at the data, you find that India's sovereign GPU data pool, okay, one second. So India's sovereign GPU data pool is almost up as of late 2025 was around 38,000 GPUs across India AI mission data centers. 38,000 total, 38,000 GPUs. Okay, and now if you look into you can go back into the video and look into the slide. Okay, and US has 74% of all global AI compute. 74% of all the global AI compute is located in the United States. US has that. China has 78,000 petaflops of compute power. India has total of 410 petaflops of compute power. 410, that's it. That's how much the big difference is. As you can see that there's disparity, right? Now let's look into some more things like training matters. Llama 3, it requires like 16,000 H100 GPUs running continuously for weeks. 16,000 Meta basically used 16,000 GPUs, H100 GPUs for Llama 3 training, and 38,000 was total for India AI's mission. And India's entire national pool of 38,000 GPUs handles roughly 2 simultaneous frontier training runs, give take 2. And there's nothing left for what? Inference, then research, or the 30 plus other approved India AI project. And every GPU in India's sovereign pool is actually US designed, Taiwan fabricated, NVIDIA hardware. So that can be subjected to US export controls at any time. Now, only reason so far US hasn't done anything about it is why. US hasn't done anything about it is for one reason and one reason only. Can you guys guess why that is? Put that in the comment. I would like to know your view on it too. Okay. But I will tell you why. US hasn't done anything to control India's AI stack so far is because US knows that the amount of money they are putting into AI, at least the consumer AI, I'm not talking about the behind the scene research and all that, consumer AI as in ChatGPT or Claude, or Perplexity, where people just sit there and talk to the AI, hey, I got family problem, how do I solve it? All that type. But AI requires money, and you could get the money from who? Customer. India has largest chat GPT market, chat GPT user, just like India has largest YouTube users, India has largest X users, India has largest number of Facebook users, India has largest number of Claude users too. So now if US wants to control all that or stops India from developing all that, then two things are going to happen. The already expensive AI stack, it's very expensive for regardless of the country, okay? Expensive AI stack is going to become more expensive. And probably it will become unaffordable for people. So they may start to lose customers. And when when you're cutting it close in the profit margin, then you don't want to lose customers. Okay. And that's what AI is doing. Right now, the whole AI bubble, that's there, right? Lots of money has been poured. So, for example, let's say $60 billion have been poured. I'm just giving you an example, okay? And that company and the investors and all, they are only pulling, say, 30 or 40 billion dollars from the whole entire thing as an income. That's like $20 billion of loss each year. So, for example, the OpenAI is going under IPO. It's evaluated as what? Valued as what? Some trillion of 972 billion or something. But the question really is, are the investors going to make their money from it? And if you are investing in OpenAI as a company, and OpenAI doesn't know how to make money off of it, then how they're going to do that? And that's where the problem is. That yeah, AI is out there, but nobody knows how to actually make money from it. And that's where the things are gonna get bottleneck. And right now, let's come back to what we are talking about here. I was just explaining why US doesn't do that. So compute also becomes a bottleneck. India does not control a single chip in its own sovereign compute stack, even though they may talk about it. So compute is also a bottleneck. Okay, now let's talk about the third thing, that is chips. Okay. Now, third thing is the chips. Okay. Now let's talk about if India can design and fabricate its own AI chips. Now let's look into the slide real quick, and I'm gonna move fast. Okay. So fabrication gap. Let's look into it. India's SCL Mohali. This is a government fab today. It has made 180 nanometer chips. Then Tata Dholera fab, it does 28 nanometer. 28 nanometer fab were built in Japan almost, I would say, 30-40 years ago. Okay. And now, as compared to all that, H100 Blackwell GPU at TSMC, that is 4 nanometer chip. Okay. And nowadays, actually, in fact, Samsung has made 2 nanometer chips. So, and TSMC also has made 2 nanometer chip that goes in certain things. Okay. Now, other problem is the HBM, that is high bandwidth memory, the hidden dependency, that is. Okay. So H100, if you look into the data, you find that H100 actually uses 80 GB of HBM3 at 3.35 terabytes per second. And this is what makes LLM training in real time in inference physically possible. You gotta have that much memory. Why? Because see, I'm gonna explain it to you a little bit. Okay. Uh, it's whatever we are doing with the AI and whatever data is there, it's always the data. It's not data at rest. Okay, this is data in flow. So if you really want fast processing, you gotta move it through the memory. The data goes into the memory, it gets processed, immediately gone pecan. It does not sit on the disk like that unless you really want it to sit on the disk. That's a different game. But everything happens in the memory, and if it doesn't, data doesn't stay in the memory, then what's the point of actually doing AI? I mean, it's like having a head without the brain, right? So that's the situation. Now, that's what the HBM3 does. But the question really is that uh, does India make any of that? No, India does not make it. I already told you that, right? India designs chips for the world, but it cannot build them. They're working on it. Okay, so this is the ceiling on every other layer. Now you see how this is, right? The HBM is manufactured by 3 companies only. 3 companies. One is SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron. Now here's the thing, guys. Though, Micron has invested in India, and Samsung has heavily invested in India. Okay, so yes, India may build these things with the help of Samsung or let's say Micron. But unless these companies they do a full technology transfer and let some Indian company build it, then until that point it is a very critical bottleneck, right? And so and like I said, every model, every AI model, every inference, you just name it, every training run, they all require memory. And this is why it matters, right? And at this point, I think the key question for India would be that can India build it? Can India build its advanced fabs? How exposed is India to export actually to US exports? Is India going to be facing problems? Let's say today India actually implements all the AI stuff in their government related work, and US starts to block it. And worst thing is that what if they install some sort of firmware, some sort of hack or something to actually hack the government data in India? That is a serious national security threat, right? So this is why I'm saying. So now you saw the chips also is a bottleneck, and none of these is, I'm not making any of this up or just putting some random data here. These are proper data. You can go and verify it. Okay, so that's the situation with the chips. Now let's talk about the data part of it. Now in data, see why this layer matters. It matters because data is the raw material of AI, right? This is where India actually has great power scale. Data is used for training the models. Without data, model is useless. Okay. Then what is India's position here? India has roughly 1.47 billion people. India has 22 official languages. India has population scale, digital public infrastructure, UPI, Aadhaar, DigiLocker, ONDC. Then India has CBDCs, right? Digital currency infrastructure, agriculture, health, education, payments, language data, all that. Okay. All that all that supports the AI push. And now, if you compare it with the US, what you see is that the US data strength is private platform data, that is Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, all that. Then China's comparison, if you compare it with China, you find that China has massive state platform data, meaning the Chinese state, the Chinese government, whatever data they collect, that's what that is. Okay. And if that data is manipulated, then your AI will be trained accordingly. AI will actually be trained to manipulate you rather than anything else. Let me share my slide here real quick. Okay. Now, what is the problem here then? In this part, there is no problem. This is India's strongest layer. India owns the data. Indian government has put restrictions with these your cloud companies and all, that they cannot take the data outside of India. Then that's what the primary terms and conditions are for Facebook. Then you have it for X, WhatsApp, Meta, just name it. Okay. So India does not have any bottleneck in this part. So this is good. Now let's move to the models part. Okay. Now in the models part, if you know why this is matters, why this layer is important. Like I said earlier, the model converts data into intelligence, right? If India only owns data but relies on foreign models, then value moves outside of India, because those models are basically designed for the Western data. Okay. Now, if you send your own data, then you got to train them for your own data. The model has to be very specific, because at the end of the day, these chat GPTs, whatever these things are, at the end of the day, they are nothing but efficient data parsers. Okay. They grab the data, they parse it, and they present it to you. There is no rationality involved, at least at the highest level. Whatever you do, you use it, you don't see the rationality. They just look at the data, whatever prompt you send. Based on the prompts, they make those calculations and then they present it to you. And you will have to probably type 5-10 different types of prompts to get the desired or closely desired result. Okay, at the end of the day, this is all data parsing behind the scenes. This is why it's called artificial intelligence. Okay, this is not called authentic intelligence. And so can Bharat build intelligence in its own image? Sarvam 105B. 105B is meaning that 105 billion parameters. Okay, this is trained in India, competitive on coding and Indic language benchmarks. Then Sarvam 30B, B is always billion. There's 30 billion parameters. Real-time conversational MOE architecture, 2 Indian languages. Then Bharat Gen Param 2, that is 17B parameters, 17 billion parameters. So you will see 22 Indic languages. They are basically all pretty much the same, right? Public, good model for governance, education, etc. Now the frontier layer is the layer where the data is actually model is trained. So Sarvam 105B competes on specific benchmark. GPT-5 and Gemini operate at the orders of magnitude greater scale. Then frontier training runs cost 100 million to billion plus. India's entire India AI compute budget cannot fund a single one. It's that much. And this is why, if you notice, that this is why it becomes very big deal when companies say that, oh, the SpaceX just XAI raised $80 billion, then Claude raised $90 billion. Where the money is going? Money is going into all these things, in training the data over and over and over. And every training basically costs you money. And how these companies, they calculate the money requirement. They can calculate the money requirement based on the token per data consumption per token. Energy consumption per token, or you can say token per watt or something like that. Okay, how much energy or electricity or power is required per token to really do all that. Okay, just like in your electric companies, they install meter, right? So what happens? You read the unit. 1 unit is what? 1 kilowatt hour, right? That, right? So and that's like 50 cents or something like that, whatever. Pretty much the same way. But the tokens are token chain. The definition of token, there is no industrial standard for tokens, but normally it's, I think, 4 to 5 bytes one token is like that. But anyways, my point is that here in the model part, the problem is not that India cannot do the model. India just doesn't have the money to actually train those models. Now you see, so you need some major investor pool to do that. Now, if let's say US decides to sanction India, then finding investors will be a very, very big bottleneck for India. Right? And this is why I said that sovereign AI is not as sovereign as it seems. Okay, it's not as sovereign as it seems, and it's filled with problems. I mean, I would say that that you have to be, India will have to be very selective about these things. That wherever you need very specifically, you apply there. Otherwise, rest you have the manpower, use that manpower to good use until you have figured out everything by yourself. Unless you have all that chip manufacturing to GPU manufacturing. Like lots of people will ask, oh, what do we do now? Go start the GPU building company. Go write CUDA code. So that you can use, at least if not NVIDIA, then you can use AMD GPUs to do the parallel processing. Parallel processing can be done, but you will have to write a framework that can actually that is Radeon hardware supported, that will support the Radeon hardware, and then can do the parallel processing. So go do all that. Then another layer that came here, right? What? Money. How are you going to do that? So figure out, you can get a job opportunity in what? Finance. So things are there. Once this whole bubble part is over, the AI bubble part will be just like .com bubble, right? .com in the beginning, they hired lots of people to make those static and dynamic HTML based websites. But as the web evolved, the whole entire thing changed. There were loads and loads of jobs after that, right? That's exactly what's going to happen with AI. The bubble is going to burst, not because AI is useless. Bubble will burst because that money is not being put into the right place, because nobody knows. It's just that everyone is winging it. Okay. Now let's move to the last part, that is deployment. Now in deployment layer, this is pretty solid thing for India. Why? Because I think India is one country that has, I think, loads and loads of AI usage. India has already figured all that out. Okay, India knows where to embed its AI. India has very strong deployment rails like UPI, Aadhaar, DigiLogger, ONDC, India Stack. We talked about it. Public service delivery, government digital platforms, all these places AI. And so what happens, even though India may be very weak in chip and all that, right? They may be weak in chip manufacturing and all that, but India still is very strong in what? In domestic AI deployment. So all in all, with this whole thing, what happens? With this, what you learn is that if India builds the proper infrastructure in the back end, then India's AI deployment is rock solid. India has a rock solid data, the two things that actually have genuine that make actually AI implementation genuine. One is the use case, second is the data behind it. So when you have that, because you have that, so it will be pretty solid thing. But so overall deployment is also not a bottleneck. So the question really is, what exactly happened overall? Now let's look at the audit scoreboard. What you see with the audit, what you find is energy is a bottleneck for India, compute is a bottleneck, chips is critical actually, data is sovereign, models partial because of the funding requirement, money, then you need hardware and all that, right? All the good stuff. Then deployment, it's very strong. So India will have to work on at least energy, compute, and chips. Once India works on these things, then model part will automatically will evolve over the period of time. As India's economy grows, then there will be more and money that will pour into the market, and there will be more and more investment into this thing, in the model deployment, right? So so what exactly the folks from India, the youngsters, the people who actually are learning things should be doing? As in, like, what skills should people learn besides AI and CS? See, in the AI revolution, it's not just about the computer, the computer science and artificial intelligence. You have to actually, artificial intelligence makes you a businessman. You go and type something that, hey, chat GPT, can you give me step by step direction to start a business, from opening a bank account to registering a company, to what are the business ideas I should be implementing based on my skill set. I think that AI will give you everything based on the data you provide, and you can go and start your own business. That's one aspect of it. Second thing is that you have to understand that not everyone is going to know AI. Just like uh, in the dot-com boom, everyone thought that, oh, we have website now, we don't need lots of things, people are going to lose their jobs and this and that. But actually, dot-com boom created more billionaires than anything else, simply because not everybody knows it. So if you know how to build a clientele, then yeah, you can increase the whole entire income source. So in the case of AI, the skills that you can learn is finance, then manufacturing different things. Learn that. Then there will be chip fabrication that's gonna come. Chip fabrication will require lots and lots of lithographic machines, operators, and all that. Then you have semiconductor, the same thing, supply chain operator, minerals, fabs, equipments, and logistics. Now I can give you one very simple example, that you can go and actually open a lithium processing plant or rare earth processing plant. You saw the rare earth war that's going on all over the place. It doesn't cost that much investment, but it's a very essential part of tier 2 supply chain. Then there is finance. Learn finance. Learn how to actually bring in money for the business, investment banking and all that. Then yeah, I mean, it's whole a different ball game. It's not just that because AI is there's lots of jobs are gonna go away. No, it's gonna create actually more jobs. You just have to know how to use it, right? So if we do a final analysis on this whole thing, then you'll find that chips, it traces back to what? The layers. It traces back to Taiwan, compute, NVIDIA, H100 Blackwell, US export control, right? Energy, AI grade power infrastructure, not built. It will require, because India is still trying to figure out, I mean, they're looking for investors to build the small modular reactors and all that. So, like I said earlier, become a nuclear engineer or start your own nuclear power plant or something. I mean, those are some serious things. You can go work in a nuclear power plant I mean, these are possible things that can be done. Models wise, right? It's Servam 105 billion parameters model, compute constraint, all these. So certain things, but most important thing that is a bottleneck is the chip manufacturing, and then compute and energy. But each one has its own different things. And if you think that somebody's gonna the problem will be with the national security problem. National security will be compromised with the data centers. So you can go and learn all these AWS or GCP or how to operate a data center. Go start your own data center, or get into space tech. Look at Elon Musk launching the data center satellites and all that. He's gonna have orbital data center, and India is far behind in it. Right? India is even far behind in launching the satellite at the rapid pace, the pace Elon Musk is doing it. So yeah. So when somebody says that India has a very low per capita incomes, what is the point of startups? It's because there are no startups. India has a low per capita. It's not the other way around. You have to understand this. Okay, to have high per capita, you gotta innovate. You gotta invest. You gotta take those risks. America became America not because America went and just slapped everyone here and there. America became America because uh, of its core. The core principle of America has been take the risk. And America actually supports, the American system used to support taking the risk to innovate and to create. That's why you see what you see. Elon Musk had that kind of leverage. You see OpenAI, you see Claude, all these things. It's all because of this. So there is that, guys. Okay, and this is it for this video. And I think now you understand why it is a national security threat and where India stands, and it can be done. How soon it will take, how long it will take for India to get there. I think that I would say by the end of this decade, 2030, so I was at 2035. Around that, you will start to see India's fabs operational, perfectly nicely operational. You will start to see chip manufacturing. So at a rapid pace. So you will see in next 10 years, you will see the AI environment, AI infrastructure to everything else is gonna explode in India. Okay, it's gonna explode. Mark my words. All right, so prepare, build your skills accordingly. All right, so this is it for this video, guys. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.